Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. I want to do some very interesting analysis for you here. I took better part of the day reading some very interesting articles on the military transition. And it's a very interesting one because it has thrown the president into some big dilemma. And looking at how things have been going on, when Kenya Kwanza came into power, we have experienced a revisit scheme where people who had worked with the administration were actually pushed out of the system because they were not sitting politically comfortable with the president. And you saw Kinoti being pushed out. NPS, there was a bit of some reshape. It took some good shape, new shape, with Jeffet coming in. It did not end there. It went to the regional commissioners who are also changed. And chiefs just survived the chopping board recently when Rigathi Gachagua said that was there. So many are seeing this process. Apart from the security level there, we are seeing some revisit on parastatals, and some Uhuru appointees are being ejected and replaced by William Ruto's people. The men in uniform were badly tarnished by the then Deputy President William Ruto's campaigners. And to date, they still maintain, or they're still on record talking about militarization of electoral system that they wanted to take over. So, do you know to date, National Security Council are not being held, and even if that nothing has come out, maybe coming out in public of that being held, I want to put up a point here that apex security body, National Security Council, must always be briefed of election results before they are announced. And from I listen to Af reports, by the way, guys. I can also urge you to listen to Af reports. There are some very interesting podcasts by Nation. I like attributing someone's work if you got something from it. And that precedence of telling National Security Council results before was to manage the situation. Remember, we are trying to really learn some good lessons after the unfortunate events of the 2007. So it was a bit harsh for the president to really wholesomely say that the security apparatus wanted to take over, even though it has been used politically to talk about how things were bad, we are coming from hell to heaven now. 2010 constitution changed the Kenya Armed Forces to Kenya Defence Forces. And this was used to pacify the police in the population, so not the police, but the men in uniform among the population, so that they look non-combative. There is the biggest dilemma that president is having. And this dilemma is because of a shakeup that is yet supposed to happen in the military. This is a very delicate space that is normally free, is normally not political meddling is not needed, and you need to be politically comfortable with this team. This is a group that needs to be politically comfortable with you, and actually they don't matter. That's one thing. You can doubt anything on our men in uniform, but they tend to get play neutrality. This is what is happening. We have two sets of rules. We have Daudi Tonje rules that spoke on the tenure of the generals, how many years the generals are supposed to work. And number two, the Daudi Tonje rules also spoke about the alternation of the defense forces, of chief of defense forces position amongst the three arms, that is Navy, Army, and Kenya Army, Kenya Navy, and Kenya Air Force. These were the lessons of 1982 coup, because it was also believed that to some extent 1982 coup was much aided by the fact that there was no synergy between the three arms, and there was one arm that was feeling inferior other than the other. So, according to Dodi Tonje, what that rule says is Brigadier retires as 57, Major General, who is next to Brigadier, retires as 59 years, Lieutenant General, who is the deputy to the 4-star General, Lieutenant General retires at 61, then the 4-star General, now Kibochi, is supposed to retire at 62. Now, that said and done, General Kabochi is from Kenya Army. And his predecessor, Samson Mwatete, was from Kenya Navy. And before Mwatete, we had Karangi, who was from, I want to believe now, Kenya Air Force. So what does it mean? That this means that the next CDF must come from Kenya Air Force. So both, and in the Air Force, those who are closest to it, the highest ranks, are General Ogola and Badi are in the Air Force. The two are the ones that are most senior, with the title of Lieutenant General. General Badi is the one who was in charge of Nairobi, by the way, the Nairobi NMS, and he's been in the public service for quite some time. While if it is to go that way, that one's on the Daudi Tonje. But then there is also the KDF Act, which says that President may, on recommendation of the National Defense Council, which is also known as the Board 1. National Defense Council is Board 1. It can also extend the term of the CDF, the Chief of Defense Forces, or for not more than 1 year in times of war or emergencies such as political uncertainty. The current CDF we have, I think the term was extended because we were going through a transition, even though General Kabochi was supposed to retire in 2022, but that was extended. This board meets twice a year. That's interesting, I got. They meet twice a year. Is it March and some of September? And then they decide and they can make these rulings. So, President is left between going with Daudi Tonje and let Ogola or Badi take up that position, or retract and revert to the KDF Act, which constitutionally gives him power to pick and can even extend the term of CDF. However, Daudi Tonje said, according to the Daudi Tonje rule, that each of those different ranks, someone should not be in one rank for more than 4 years. Because if you do that, you'll mark time for long, and the people that are coming below you who also want to take up those positions. So if you were there for more than 4 years and you don't move to the next level, then you'll actually finish there. That's what Daudi Tonje said. So it's a very interesting, and what the president and people are waiting to see, that this is the needle William Ruto is sitting on. Do you go with Daudi Tonje and pick Badi or Ogola as the new Chief of Defense Forces? Or you will revert to the KDF Act, and when you invoke the KDF Act, you can work with it. Now, there is a precedence that was set. When Karangi left for Mwatete, President Uhuru Kenyatta did not meddle. And that is the precedence. Even though there was a bit of increasing the term, adjusting the term, like this of Kibochi, but even Daudi Tonje during the Moi time, being the fact that he's the person who crafted it, but even himself, he never extended his term. So both Mwai Kibaki and Uhuru Kenyatta, they had instances of increasing or rather extending the term, but there was a precedence of non-meddling that was set by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. The military with Uhuru, I think to the tail end of Uhuru's tenure, they were so close to the president, and President would easily pick people from the military to help him run government when he realized that things were not going on well. And this is something that did not sit well with Kenya Kwanza that were led by William Ruto. Now, even though because it's military, you cannot come out and speak about it. We have seen bit of those reversals where General Badi now has been to go back to Kenya Air Force, and even people I even saw today. I think there was one which was also leading some board who was also from the from the military that has gone back. So quite a number of them are going back, and it's because the president is saying, and he's against. Of course, I've always said that there is an activism, a personal difference between Uhuru and Ruto, and Ruto will just do things to make sure he's not with. They're not in good books with Uhuru Kenyatta. So this dilemma, the country is waiting to see who is going to become the next CDF. Who is going to become, because they are those two, even though we wait to see. So the challenge, and that's why I started by revisit scheme have been coming all over. And these revisit schemes, some are not so comfortable. Some leaders are, or leaders are not at times not comfortable with them, because Ruto, there are things if he will do, he will not want the military institution to be seen as if he's trying he's becoming vindictive, or is becoming a bit victimizing, because someone did this and it was this, so he doesn't want. So that's one thing he will look at, because if he runs away from what is a president, if he doesn't take precedence, then it will be seen as if he has taken the revisit mission even to the institution of military. I can say that the men in uniform are some of the most disciplined people around. Some of my college mates, I know someone who, they're in cadets, and they're so disciplined, by the way. And I think it's because nini hawajaona, and their life is always at risk all the time, protecting this country. So that is the one mistake, being seen as if victimizing. Number two, I think he will also not want to be seen as if trivializing the issues of military, because that is a very key aspect. You can play around with National Police Service, DCI, but there you don't want to trivialize. Those are very disciplined men and women who follow what the law is. And by the way, one of the biggest strength they have is following the law. And they have a very strong legal base. Just go and find out when KDF lost a case, then you know what I'm talking about. Now, Ruto would not, KDF is making good efforts to pacify the perception of the public. Like they're doing humanitarian aid in Sudan, and they're also giving food to Somalia. Kenyans were asking in Twitter, why are we giving food to Somalia and Sudan while our people here are suffering? But one thing you can see is it also gives the humanitarian aspect of it. So with those effects, with those gains coming over, the president will have to be very critical in handling this institution, because they will not want to be seen as if he's trying to meddle with some of the issues in here. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a big dilemma in it. I don't know what to think, but I've just been trying to cover it for a better part of the day, and I hope you can share. It's a matter of wait and see. If General Kibochi's term was extended, then it's going to, because he had reached, I think, the 62 years. Between a year of retirement and the 4 terms, the 4-year term, whichever comes first, then you go. If you retire before those 4 years, fine. Retire after. If you don't get to 62, but then you serve the 4 years, then you also need to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my take.